Good morning, good afternoon, hello everyone. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And today I am here with really three wonderful people. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Having said that, let me tell you who we have. We have Neville Gaunt, who was here with me last week. We have Ozma Tariq and Mary Ellis Arthur, and we're going to get to know everyone very well. And we're continuing the talk on, and I'm not sure, I'll figure it out in a moment, but someplace it's not viewing on Facebook. And I'll figure it out in a moment. Maybe Asma can figure it out for me so I know where to hit and get it working. But anyway, we will get this show on the road. We are talking more about dreams and dreams that we have at night. Not at night as much as dreams that we have that we use to make our lives better, that we want to create in our life, and we say, oh no, we can't create this in our life because it's not going to work. And it's what we create in our mind that doesn't work. And we are not on Facebook for some weird reason. We are on YouTube only. So, having said, I just found that out. I will go and share it onto Facebook in a moment. Why this is happening, I don't know. But people, we will be there. Neville, can you talk about mindset for a moment and help me out while I get this working, please?
Yeah, sure. Mindset. Well, it's a big topic. But I suppose if we can pose a few questions to the audience here, to my two colleagues here, while you're trying to get this on Facebook. If you've a negative mindset, what's the likelihood that your dreams will come to fruition? There you go. There's a question for the pair of you to answer. How's that? Who's going to go first?
It's Mary Ellis here, and I'm calling in from Columbus, Ohio. So hello to everyone who's listening. So nice to have you here and have you be part of a bigger field thinking about this topic of dreams. So Neville's just asked, is it possible to make something happen if you've got a negative mindset? As a storyteller, I know that the story is consistently going on in your head. You're always telling yourself a story about reality, whether you realize it or not. And people have often said, I don't have a small voice in my head. Where's that small voice? But if you're asking yourself that, that's actually the small voice. So the story is always going on. It's like a chemical reaction in the background, and it sets a frame around what you think your possibilities and potentials are and who you think you can be. So it has a direct impact on your agency and what will happen. Agency meaning the power you have to make something happen in your life. So it makes a lot of difference the way you're approaching your story and your life as to what will happen. And they often say the attitude of gratitude is the best way to move forward because it gives you a more open frame and an ability to think of and be grateful for what you already have, which makes the possibility of something new even greater. So just a first response to you, Neville.
Asma, how about you? Can you have your dreams come true if you've got any sort of a negative mindset?
Certainly not. Carla, at first I need to. Carla, I was looking at the Facebook and we were live there, and now we disconnected. Okay. As we're discussing about negative mindset, I think certainly your mindset is the first thing that help you to achieve your goal. There's a famous quote. I don't know the author, but it was if you want to change your future, you need to change your mindset. You need to change your thoughts. This is the first thing that you can do. So it plays the first role. And if you have a negative mindset, and if your mindset is not okay with that, and you're not okay with your thoughts that you can't do the things, certainly it would convert into our actions, because from there the actions start, from there the things start. So if you're thinking you can't do it, if you're thinking negative, certainly that somehow affect the whole thing process, somehow that affect your whole body physically, in any way, and that certainly would affect your dreams. So at first, if you want to fulfill your dream, the first thing is we need is our mindset. We have to make our mindset that we can do it, we can achieve it, and this is the first thing that we can do it. And I think mindset is very important. We usually take it very normal, but it is the most important thing, and it is the first thing that help you to achieve your dreams. So we need to work on mindset, very important. And every time, I think every time you have to somehow challenge it, and you have to deal with it. What are you thinking? Where your mindset is going on? Somehow there the environment and all that kind of things affect your mindset, affect your thinking process. So where your check balance comes, where you have to check it, where I'm going, where you have to work on your mindset, and then you are working as you are doing it. So that's very important, and I think we need to work on the mindset. This is the most important thing before, if you want to achieve your dreams and before doing anything.
Need to unmute, Markala.
I need you guys to carry on because I am locked out of Facebook now.
Okay, nothing new there then. Back to square one, Carla. Anyway, well, Facebook have definitely got a negative mindset if they keep locking you out. So that's one thing we can do. Let me ask you a question. Did you know that you've actually got two elements of a negative mindset and only one positive? Is that news to either of you, or is that common knowledge? So that one voice that's nagging away, pulling you backwards, is actually two voices. There's a can't do voice and a won't do voice, and those two are very, very different. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've experienced both of those because, and it's interesting that sometimes the I won't voice comes to me through somebody else's languaging. So when I get the language, I'll just get you to do this, then I'm kind of like, oh, wait a minute. No, you won't. When I can really get that somebody is, in fact, not making an invitation of me or a request of me, but a demand, or that their job is to not even persuade me, but push me in a certain direction, then my I won't gets heavily activated. So I'm really sensitive as I go on these days to the art of invitation. I think it's a fantastic art, and not much practiced art. So when I think about dreams, I think about how society is surrounding us at the moment, at least in the Western world. And Asma, I'd be really interested to hear from you. I think in the Western world, we get a very heavy message of you're not good enough, or you're not enough. You need this, you need that, you need the other thing. You need to, your skin needs to look a certain way, your body needs to look a certain way, you have to have made this much money. So there are some parameters around success. And then, of course, we hear from those inside of the bubble that it's no fun in there either. Once you've gotten to that, their I can or I won't is also active. So I think that all of these things bear the kind of exclamation mark of, am I prepared to be awake in my world? Am I prepared to be awake to how my mindset is working, how my story field is working? Because stories are an interesting thing. And I'm talking to you all as a storyteller, as a story activist. I think story is really powerful, and it's always kind of going on in the background. So but my reality is almost made out of a map I have constructed out of the stories I'm entertaining. It's like being at the Mad Hatter's tea party in Alice in Wonderland. I'm at a tea party and I'm entertaining all these guests, and these stories lock together and they make my map of the world. So when somebody presents a new piece of the map, hey, you could do like this, you could be like that, then one of a couple of things can happen. Either I can grab that and go, wow, that fits on right here, and plug that into my part of the puzzle. Or I can defend myself from it. This is the I can't kind of mindset. No, that's not possible. No, I don't believe that. No, that's not true. Or I could even be at the point where I can't even see it. I'm blind to it because my stories are somehow making me defended from even noticing that there's a new possibility or a new reality. And often I can tell that inside of myself, whether my dreams are being activated or my resistance is being activated, in the emotion that's arising when somebody's inviting, persuading, whatever verb you want to use, to be part of something. I can tell what's going on by what's going on in my emotional body. And, the word emotion is interesting. The most important part of the word emotion is motion. So emotions were meant to move. They're not meant to get stuck. But if you don't entertain them at all, they can either get stuck or they can get louder because they haven't had any attention. So so my responsibility really, if I'm thinking about how do I activate my dreams, is how, and this is interesting with the word dreams, because we often think of dreams as something when you're asleep. But if I think of my life dreams, then I need to be fundamentally awake. I need to be awake on a whole different level. I think that may be what you're pointing to, Neville, with that idea of, can I be aware of the many voices there that are at play? Can I listen to them? And then at some point in time go, thanks so much for sharing. Please, could you go sit over there? Because I'd like other people at the board table who are going to be helpful for me getting to my dreams. And recently I was talking to another story practitioner who's really into archetypes. And she said, think of yourself as the CEO of a multinational corporation. And the CEO has many, many people working for them. So there are many archetypes at work, but some of them regularly sit in the boardroom. And those archetypes hold sway. They influence very heavily how you see the world and what you think can be done. Some of them have louder voices than the others. And that immediately put a picture into my mind of some people sitting together at the head of the board table, working very collaboratively, and a few over there in the corner on the whiteboard scribbling away, and one in the corner having a pout because nobody's listening to them. And it's interesting to become very aware of what's happening in my inner boardroom and to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm the CEO. So actually I could call in a new team. I could call in a SWAT team, I guess, a team that could be helpful in this moment because I'm facing something that's giving me resistance or the I won't mindset. I could call in a team that's going to be helpful for me to listen, find the gift in that, because usually those voices are trying to help us. They're actually not trying to totally sabotage us. They're trying to keep us safe. They're trying to help us. They're trying, but maybe their voice has been too dominant for too long. So how do I look for the gift in the situation and then say, okay, so how am I going to change up the storyline so I actually can move in that direction of what I most desire and deal with those things that are limiting me, see the gift in them and move on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mary Ice, and I love your Mad Hatter's Tea Party approach, because I do work in a boardroom a lot, and it is almost like I wouldn't say that they physically go and don't talk to people or team up, but you can see it happening in their mind just by the fact of their level of engagement, their level of awareness. And I think that's the bottom line. Are you aware of other people? When you're in your own story and you're in full flow, if someone throws in a grenade, you can either take it as that aha moment and say, that's a great idea. Can we just park it for the moment because I'm in flow, but then bring it back? Or you can actually see people that just frown on someone else, raining on your parade. This is your time. And if you can be aware of yourself as to what happens when that happens, you can learn an awful lot about yourself. And in some respects, it allows your dreams to open up if you can deal more with people that do throw grenades in, because it's that expansive. I mean, Carol Dweck calls it a growth mindset, and she calls the negative fixed mindset. But trying to focus on that growth mindset all the time, believe it or not, is really tiring. Because although you're not physically doing anything, as soon as you start to really use this brain and get the chemicals moving in a pretty fast way, it really is tiring. I'm sure if you do any public speaking, you get off the stage absolutely drained because you've given everything. It may have been 15 minutes or an hour, but like in any sport, you've left everything on the field. You've literally got nothing to come away with. But it's this. I'd love to go back to this Mad Hatter's Tea Party, because I think that's for anyone that hasn't read Alice in Wonderland, that's a brilliant, part of the story. And by the very nature of being a Mad Hatter and a tea party, and if you see the film, they all sort of move around the table and they're eating and drinking all sorts of manner of things. I'm not too sure it's tea, but it must be something a little stronger, I think, for some of the comments that are made ultimately. But let's explore that Mad Hatter's Tea Party bit and just take us, storytellers, down that route. You raised it, so let's just go with the flow and see what happens.
I mean, this is especially interesting in the frame of a boardroom because, we get very fixated, especially in business, about results. So a lot of people are concerned about standard operating procedures and is this, what's the rules around this and what's the process and all, like this. But if you actually want innovation, you have to move, and that pathway, and this is to come from the work of Dee Hawk, who was leading the team who founded the Visa card, which in its time was a fundamentally amazing new innovation in the finance world. There are so many credit cards around these days that we don't think about it anymore as a way of moving money and as a way of connecting. But the Visa organization is very interesting because who knows exactly where it is? Nobody. That's because it was like the first networked innovation of its time. So if I want to do what I'm doing even harder and better, then I'm actually walking the line between order and control. That's what a standard operating procedure is. That's what a best practice is. It has maximized what you do and set the steps, and this is the best way to do it. But if you want innovation, you have to play in the field between order and chaos. A little bit of order to put your toe down, a little bit of chaos so you have new thinking. And this is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. You have to move out of old rigid thinking in order to have new ideas. You have to be able to play and go a bit mad. Some of the best ideas come from those people. And that's the nice thing about Alice in Wonderland in the movie. Her father apparently said to her, you're a little bit mad, but here's the secret. The best people in the world are. So I love, and like the best people who are doing the biggest things are actually entertaining their dreams at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. They're less about I know and more about I wonder. So it's a more playful attitude. It's a curious attitude. It's a what if attitude, not this is the way it is. So when I think about some of the best ways to look at dreams is to ask questions. And for me, in the work that I do with groups and organizations, coming from an art of hosting perspective, this is the field that's all about how do you host and how risk conversations that matter. Then we think a question is sometimes more powerful than a vision statement, because a question engages your brain to keep wanting to answer it. Whereas a vision statement is kind of set, there's we are this. But if I'm asking myself, a question I played with a lot around with a group in New Zealand was this question: what if New Zealand were a place where young people were an irresistible force for positive change? And that's a whole different thing than how do we stop kids from tagging or being loud or taking drugs? Because it's an invitation into a much greater stance, a bigger dream of who a young person could be. And by the way, this is the interesting thing about questions, is that all parts of questions are active at the same time. So you can take that whole question I just gave as one question, or you could take the parts of it. So that part of it were a place. What do you mean by place? Do you mean the country? Do you mean the region? Do you mean our community? Do you mean your house or your family? What do you mean by place? So you could ask a few questions about that. You could ask a few questions about what's an irresistible force. You could ask some questions about positive change. What do you mean by that? So there's plenty to explore. But even more interesting is, what is a young person? So in New Zealand, a young person is, by law, is determined or defined as someone between 12 and 25. But if you're part of the Maori population, the indigenous population in New Zealand, you'll quickly learn that you are a young person as long as there's somebody older than you in the room. Which, you know what, as I'm gaining more digits and my age is making me feel really hopeful. So this question allows us to dream the edges. It doesn't set something up as final. It asks us a question to keep us going further, to keep opening the dream. And I think this is, this is something Peter Senge said a long time ago, and I don't know if he's ever written this down, but to a group of young people that I heard about and was connected to, he said the new stance of a leader is to hold the space for a bigger question. So we think of leadership as having answers, but actually that's, in these days and these kind of chaotic times, that's not actually a demonstration of great leadership. To me, a great leader would be somebody who's telling us the story that's keeping us dreaming about what's possible, and telling us that even when it's hard, even when it's confusing, and boy, have we been through that we could dream something big together. And by the way, all of you are important to this, so you matter. And they're holding the space for a bigger question. They're holding that space for all of us to step up and take some personal, have a personal commitment, a personal stake in this bigger dream or bigger vision that might be possible. So that's, I don't think there would be any CEO who would say, I'm the head of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. But why not? Because that's actually an interesting metaphor. If we actually spun everything on its head, could we learn something? Could we be struck by something we'd never seen before? And all innovations are not something usually totally out of the blue, but people putting together interesting things that have never been put together before. Wow, I never saw it that way. And persisting for long. I think of Art Fry and the Post-it note, that guy persisted. 3M wanted to fire him because they went, this is not useful. This is glue that doesn't stick. That's not what we're about. We're about glue that sticks. They almost got rid of him, but he persisted, and he made a team out of people using his product who were at, the assistants in the organization, the secretaries all went, this is fantastic. I love it. And so they became the first ambassadors. So he made an invitation into his dream. And through that, something stunningly interesting happened. So can I keep my dream alive by being playful, by being in curiosity, by asking questions? And can I use the art of invitation to engage other people in helping me to keep that dream alive? Like, who's your secret team? Like maybe they don't all have the t-shirt, but you could call them up and go, okay, I have a little bit of a dream crisis. I need some more input into my dream. Hit me. Let's go to the Mad Hatter's Tea Party and have some fun.
I love it, because it's true. Our dreams are what keep us alive. And so often, I know in my life, I was told, Carla, you're dreaming. And unfortunately, I listened to those people who said, Carla, you're dreaming, stop dreaming, come back to reality. And I would do things that were not necessarily in my best interest because I lost my dream. I lost what I wanted to happen. And then all of a sudden in my life, things shifted. And all I could do was dream because all the other things were kind of left behind. And the moment they got left behind and I began dreaming again, I became a person again. And what I'm doing today is because I began dreaming. And I'm really fascinated by the whole idea of making our dreams become a reality. Because when we begin to make our dreams become a reality, our life takes off like a rocket. And we are fixing the problem that we're going through right now. And I appreciate having you two here because the conversation you're having is where I had hoped we would go today. So as we're fixing the issue, I'm going to let you guys talk and I will pop in again in a moment.
I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying, Carla, those people saying, stop dreaming, because it's the same. I spent almost 30 years in New Zealand, and I can tell, Neville, you know, when you come from a British English language base, people also say, stop telling stories, meaning don't lie to me. And what they're fundamentally doing is shutting down imagination, mostly in children, because they're confronted by it, or they're trying to get a quick answer, they're trying to control something, whatever it is. So we all have been hit by this shutdown in imagination. And I think, Carla, you're absolutely right, is that human beings, we need to make sense and meaning, which is why we invented storytelling. And that's why we, you know, it's the fundamental basis of how we communicate. But if we don't have dreams, then, and hope starts to die, then we start to die. So imagination, storytelling, dreams, the mindset, all of this is fundamentally a foundation for us being the best of our humanity. So the question is, how can we support each other? I was in a little exercise in New Zealand where we asked people to do an appreciative interview. And I remember this one team very specifically. I was in a small town that had a very high incident of teenage pregnancy, very high incident of gangs, and also a very strong church. And I began to wonder whether the church and the gangs were they were using the same membership techniques. It was kind of interesting. But this one pairing of people, an older man and a younger woman, and he had prodded her. She said, I don't have any dreams. And he just kept at it. He was, bless him, he really kind of kept at it. And she at the end said, I didn't realize I was allowed to have any dreams. One of the saddest statements I think I've ever heard, along with the one when somebody once said, I don't have any stories. Also a sad statement, you know. But we can listen those stories out of each other. We can encourage those dreams to grow, just like we put a seed in a planter and hope we're going to get a plant. It needs the same kind of nurturing. And if we do nurture those with each other, they can grow. But, you know, I had a dream one time, what would happen if everybody spoke their dreams and we all helped each other to have them happen? What would happen to humanity if that were the case?
That's a really good question, and it's one I sort of ask because I work a lot these days with young audiences. I was in the oil industry for 30 years when I had a proper job, and I didn't understand what leadership was. We just got on with it, and it was about how well you could work together. Not your technical competence. I mean, you were there because you had technical competence, but it was literally how well can you work together? When someone throws the grenade in or turns up at the Mad Hatter's tea party uninvited, are you welcoming? Are they deferent to you to join in when they can? And it's amazing how fast teams can really get together. And make a huge difference. I think it's very sad that someone, and I hear this a lot, you know, I haven't any stories to tell. And I think half the problem is they've got hundreds of stories to tell, it's just they don't know where to start. And I always say, well, start somewhere, just tell me why you were excited about, doing something. And I've listened a lot recently to people that say, without hope, you can't dream. And other people that say, without dreams, you can't hope. So, and they make a very strong case either way. Frankly, I'm not bothered really, because I think the two are sort of in a spider's web. You can start with one and it can go to another quite easily. And of course, where we struggle currently, you probably heard of Sustainable Development Goals, which is huge around the world. And the biggest problem with that is that we're missing a fundamental element of those SDGs. All the SDGs are really well defined, and they're defined from a position of hope. We can have zero hunger. We can be have easy equality for everybody else. We can be collaborative. We can have education for everybody. So it's that I can. But of course, majority of the world is a can't or a won't. They're a negative. And we know that from all the research that's been done. So there's a missing SDG, which is SDG 0. It's having the right mindset, the right attitude, so that you can then go and do everything else. And of course, the same thing is true for entrepreneurship. I mean, we're desperate for entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean to say they're doing anything necessarily unique in the world on their own. It's just they're doing something unique in their area. And therefore, they're no longer a me too. And I think half the problem with dreams is that we start dreaming about doing something that someone else is doing. And we end up not being able to do it because it was their dream first. And we're the uninvited guest to the dream. And the other part about this invitation, Irene, I love that term, actually. I haven't heard it for a while. But don't you think that someone that's a good leader can actually invite themselves in, or take a step back and look at what's going on as an uninvited guest? I just wonder whether that's just a thought process that's ever entered into your mind.
It has, because I know of the Japanese term, the sacred witness. So for anybody who hasn't heard of that before, that's the idea of, when people lived in villages very tightly connected, somebody wanders over the mountain and comes in, then they are the sacred witness. They don't know the way the community is together. And culture, by the way, this most simple definition of culture is the way we do things around here. That's actually a good definition of it. And most of the time, there's not a bunch of rules pinned up on the wall. It's actually in the fabric of the way people are dealing with each other. And so when you come in, you have this I call it the Martian moment, kind of like you landed from Mars suddenly and you're in this different culture. This happened to me when I moved to New Zealand. I moved to New Zealand at the age of 25. I had this idea of, everybody speaks English there. Yeah. There were only 3 million people and I could maybe get to know everybody. I had these kind of very interesting ideas. So folks, I just want to say to you, long, long ago, before the time of the internet and mobile phones, that was the time I was 25. And so things were kind of different. It wasn't like I could look up on YouTube. There wasn't any of that stuff. So I kind of moved there with this paradigm, they all speak English. Well, as we all know, if anybody speaks English, it's all different, no matter, depending on what part of the world you're in. So, and the culture is different, and the way people approach things is different, and the way they hold it in language is different. So the sacred witness has this window of opportunity to offer a mirror to the community about the way they are being in their culture together, and to ask the why question that perhaps nobody inside could ask. And this is a role in Japanese culture. And I often invite that in when I'm doing storytelling work and I do trio work. One of the people in the trio, there's a storyteller, and then usually there's somebody looking for whatever content we're after. That's what we call the harvester. And then there's somebody who's the witness. And I say, if you want to understand the word witness, if you said it withness, you would understand a bit more about it. I am here to be with you. I'm here to listen a better story out of you and to help you to see things that you maybe didn't see before. And this is a really important position. And it's often very difficult for leaders because they're already in a paradigm. They have a role. People see them a certain way. And of course, if you're in a leadership position, you receive people's, we call it stereotyping, but we should call it stereotyping, because what we try to do is apply our stories to other people. Here, you have that kind of, listening to me, you have that kind of accent, you must be a this, without realizing I was born and grew up with this accent and left the world of this accent when I was 25, and I didn't come back for 35 years. And now it's cultural shock the other way around. For me, being back in the country of my birth and going, wait a minute, what happened? I think I've been gone a long time. So there's something really interesting about the ability to, I think you're indicating, to have the helicopter perspective, to take the eagle eye view, to step out of the minutia for a moment and out of usually in organizational structures an extreme task focus. I remember reading an article many years back that was talking about I think it was about only 7% of time was spent by senior leadership on strategy. An incredibly small amount of time, because they were stuck in the minutia and people wanted them to do stuff. And instead of visioning and dreaming where we would go in the future, they were stuck right down at the level of, why did we spend so much on milk when we look at the budget? And I think you're also indicating, Neville, this challenge we have even in our language of talking about the soft skills. Man, the soft stuff is the hard stuff. You're totally right. I mean, what makes a team come together? What helps it hang together through turbulence? What helps people still retain respect for each other even when things get hard? Because as a facilitator, I've been 25 years as a facilitator, I know that the best facilitators do a dance between task and relationship. And if the relational field is not there, if people can't, as we would term it in this conversation, hold the dream together, then they're never actually going to make it there. And if we're dealing with something that's innovative, it's being on an emergent journey. We think we want to go somewhere, but we have to be prepared for learning along the way. And if, I often say to people, do your leaders know how to do emergence? And they go, I don't know. I said, well, here's a test. Do any of you know how to drive in the dark? If you know how to drive a car or a rickshaw or a bicycle, or anything else in the dark, then you know something about the emergent journey, because the light on the front of your vehicle is only going to illuminate the road for a certain amount of distance. A car is 200 meters, a bike, maybe 3 or 4 meters. It's not very far, but you think you know where you're going. So you have a goal in mind, and then you have to be prepared to put up with whatever is going to happen on that journey. It might be, construction. The sidewalk is closed. I need to get my bike off the street or somewhere else. It might be we're on a car journey that we know is going to take a long time. And so somebody needs to pull over and make a stop. We need food. We could visit somebody who's on the road. There's a detour. The biggest question is everybody going to stay in the car together on this journey? Are we going to make it together? So the relational field, the dreaming capacity of all of us, the collective wisdom, you might say, is the really important thing to getting to task and having that task manifest itself as even better than before. If we're open to emergence and therefore able to deal with what comes up, and there's some emotional resilience that's needed there. There's some ability to keep telling the story that's going to help us stay together and stay committed to this longer journey. There's also a need to say, maybe I'm not the best leader at this moment. Maybe somebody else should drive for a moment because they're actually really good right here. Can we learn that leadership is actually participatory leadership is the way of the future? Letting somebody be more like an expedition where the person who's really got the good knowledge for the moment, for the terrain, or for the challenge is the one who steps up to take leadership, and we rotate smoothly and we honor each other for that. And we call out the best of each other. So there's the art of invitation again. I often say, every leader makes an invitation. It's just some leaders make the invitation to shut up, and some leaders make the invitation to speak up. Which one are you?
I love that. Shut up or speak up. I mean, they both begin with S, so you've got a fighting chance, really, 50-50. And sometimes you need to do both. You need to be that person that can assess the situation and keep it on track. And what we find, good chairmen that have got literally, we've got an hour to clear this agenda. A good chairman will clear it in an hour. A lot of things may end up going on to the next meeting, but it's only been booked for an hour and they won't allow it to go further. I never really understood that at the beginning when of my career, when we used to have a long agenda and we would literally just finish halfway down and say, well, this is meeting's up, that's it. We'll have to postpone those to the next meeting, which could be weeks or months away. I mean, but I think one of the things you were sort of referring to there is something that I call, you might call it soft skills. I mean, there's one particular soft skill that's completely unwritten, and that's a soft skill of being the glue, making it all happen, but more importantly, helping others feel that they've done it and they're important. Otherwise, the journey next time is going to be much, much harder. They'll basically look to you to go and do it on your own. And I had a phrase, again, when I had a proper job back in the oil industry, I used to say, okay, we've got a new project, guys. I want to make sure that everyone's on the bus. Before the bus takes away, we need to know why we're on the bus, what the expectation is, what you can contribute, and when you're going to be expected to lead that particular section. So on a Gantt chart, there's a critical path, as many people will know, and the majority of leaders, or the good leaders, not the majority, but the good leaders take a step back when it's someone else's responsibility. And I think coming back to the dream part, you've got to be able to dream that, or close your eyes and just imagine what that is going to look like. Not just for the team, but how are you going to feel about it? Because you're the project leader sometimes, and you've really got to basically take a step back. And I think that's being smart. That's having tremendously good soft skills, being emotionally competent and intelligent. If there is such a thing as emotion and intelligence, I think those two words should never have been put together. But competent and resilient, I think, is probably the phrase I would come to with emotions. And I think the funny thing is, once you get to the end of a project, so once you've dreamed what's going to happen, once it's been put down on paper, once everyone has gone through it and really contributed so that they've got a lot out of it, the question that I always ask at the end of it, if you were to walk away from the project just before it ended, would the team fulfill it? And if the answer is yes, then you know you've done your job. Because you were the glue, perhaps, but now they've formulated their own glue and they're making it happen. So I'd just like to refer to the glue bit, which I think is missing throughout. Some people call it facilitation, other people call it, the lynch point, the kingpin. But it's not quite that. It's because that doesn't mean you're important. It just means other people perhaps need to be given that extra impetus. And I think that's going back to your education arena. You've got to be highly aware of what's going on. And the Japanese one made me smile when you said it, because some of our best programs have been done with Japanese companies. And yet at the very highest level of these Japanese companies, I'm sure losing face really is not an option. So you've got this paradox of you're the invited stranger to come and tell them what's wrong, but then there's this losing face culture that you've got to sort of tread on a few eggshells as you tiptoe through. So it's your You've been given this sacred position, but in other words, don't overuse it. Don't overpower it, and bring them back into the invitational discussion, which I've always found fascinating on the Japanese culture, having worked with them for many years in the Far East in oil and gas. Carla, you back?
Yes, it has been an adventure that I'm so grateful to have Asma as part of my team. I could not have done it without her. I accidentally locked myself out of Facebook and didn't realize it in trying to get everything working. It was all my fault. But this lovely young lady, Asma, got me back into Facebook and got me going again. And I told her to come back to the show. I am very sorry, people, but I am so very happy to be able to have had this conversation going on while the craziness was happening. I am amazed we got it done. Asma, do you want to say, I don't know, have you heard any of the conversation at all? I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I actually didn't hear because I was so involved in just solving that. And I think there was also a mindset. Right now, I also have a conference, I have a show, and there this thing happened. And there are four things are going on right now in my side. But I think my mindset before that, my mindset was ready that there the things was happen like this, and there's something, there anything can happen because that usually happen. So you are ready, and this is, I think, so okay. We are talking about mindset, so this is the power of mindset, that if you make your mindset ready for the things, you can deal with the things. The first thing that you have to do it, and I think that the problem comes, it's with your mindset. And whenever I get some problem and when I get stuck with something, I usually need some time, and this time is not to worry about the thing. This time is for myself, where I talk with myself and prepare myself that this is now happened, lady, now we have to solve it. Like, it's to prepare your mindset that now how we can make the things possible, how we can solve the things, what the possible options that we can do it. And there I always need some time to prepare my mindset. And once mindset get ready, after that, whatever may happen, you can deal with the things, you can deal with the situations. So I think this is the most powerful thing that God has given us, and that's your mindset. And even all the revolutions that came, it's just because of mindset. So it's our mindset that can make the revolution. It's our mindset, it's our thoughts that can possible the dreams real, that can make things possible. And we at first need to work on our mindset. It's very important. It's and to know the how it works and how the things are going on. And there, I just want to share one thing. There, I also actually believe on one thing throughout my childhood, that I'm not intelligent because I usually forget the things. And I was very bad with memorization, yet I am. And I was thinking I'm very bad with intelligence. God has not given me even a sense, a little intelligence. This is not fair that God has given to me. And but with the passage of time, I just realized it's your mindset, it's not the real thing. And it's fine if you can't memorize the things for much longer time. It's fine, there's no issue. But the thing is that you can learn the things at any time, even if you don't know the things. There is a neuroplasticity. Like when you learn something for the first time, there's a drop comes in your mind, and then you learn more than 3 times, practice the things, and you become the you expert of that thing. So any one of us can learn anything at any time. This is the power of mind.
I want to say that if mindset is the main thing. It's being in the moment and staying in the moment. And the one thing that happened that was kind of amazing to me today was that I locked myself out and I needed to figure out a way to get into Facebook rather quickly after being locked out during the show. And the one thing that came to mind, Ozma has been helping me with it. She could get me back in. And by staying in the moment and not saying, oh no, I am out of this, I can't do this, we were able to do it. It took half of the show, but it got done. And that's more important. We need to learn that the regret of our mistakes takes us nowhere. And what worry about what's going to happen in the next minute takes us nowhere. But if we stay in the moment and we stay where we need to be and work at what needs to be done, then we go somewhere. And I really learned that big time today. And I'm very, very thankful. And Neville, both of you can comment on that, and then we will be ending the show because it's that time. Neville, Mary Alice, whoever wants to talk first. Mary Alice, ladies first.
I think you're speaking about one of the main beauties of dreaming is the flexibility that's in it, the opportunity to wonder and wonder kind of at the same time of staying in the moment, wondering how something might happen, asking for help, opening to possibilities, and sometimes it's just about asking a different question. Not how do I get my keys, but how do I get me and my keys together? That might be enough to move something on. So asking a different question, telling a different story, bringing the power of the dream in for the moment. What do I dream instead of this? Or how do I accept this moment? And then from that, move forward. So there's something really powerful in what you're asking, I think, or pointing to, is people staying awake and using the power of the dream to actually move into the next phase of what reality might be if they allowed it to be so. So wishing you all good dreaming, everyone.
Thank you so much. And that's so very true, Mary Alice. It's dreaming and keeping that dream alive. And so many times we're told, don't dream. And my sister just said it to me the other day, and I said, no, Viv, I need to dream, and I will continue to dream. Neville?
Well, it's been fascinating having a chat with Mary Alice while you've been on your own little journey. And we've covered so many subjects. And I just want to pick up one thing that Asma said a few minutes ago. And it's about practice, because practice. You learn to play the piano, you practice. To the trombone or soccer or football, or to be a good leader, you just need to practice. But a phrase that we use all the time, any practice makes permanent. The right practice makes perfect. So now all you've got to do is find out what the right practice is and then start doing that, which is easier said than done, given the lots of poor role models that we have out there. So sometimes to do the right thing, you've got to go out and do something that someone's never done before. And again, the right practice makes perfect. So let's just hope you pick the right practice. It's been a fascinating show today. I'll never forget having a cup of tea at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. I've never really thought of it, Mary Alice, as a boardroom, but boy, am my next group going to get it in the neck. So thank you for that. I don't pull my punches when I get up to that level because time's money. But thanks, Carla. I'm glad you got it sorted. Well done, Asma. She's the perfectionist. See you soon.
Okay, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this. We're going to wave goodbye. We are on Facebook now. Let's wave goodbye, and we'll see you again on Thursday.